All right, I guess we'll kick this one off and we'll add our guests, our speakers as we go. So, welcome everyone to another episode of XTalks. This one is going to be powered by Layer 1X, which is a Layer 1 blockchain that is built to transform your Web3 experience. With its unmatched security, cost efficiency, and cross communication, it makes true interoperability a reality. We not only connect EVM chains, but we also connect non-EVM blockchains. So if you're someone who is interested in interoperability or who would like to experience real interoperability, then you can check Layer 1X out. Of course, Cryptonaut and Spark will add more to that because they are the power angels, they are the experts. Cody, handing off to you.
Hey, thanks everybody for joining episode 26 of X Talks, and we're definitely looking forward to this one. My name is Cody. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Layer 1X Blockchain, and I will be your host for today's episode. For those of you that are returning listeners for the X Talk AMA series, welcome back. To those that are new listeners, the XTalks AMA series, as mentioned, was sponsored by Layer 1X Blockchain, and we're excited to explore a panel-style discussion regarding the latest in Web3 chains and the evolution of truly decentralized bridgeless interoperable experiences, which we call XTalks. So let's pause here for just a minute and before we introduce our guests, I do want to say if you do have any questions, please be sure to drop those in the comments for our panelists. And Sam will make sure that those questions of yours get presented. So I think we've got everybody on that needs to be here as panelists. Is that correct, Sam? I'm just kind of looking through. Do you mind doing a double check for us?
Yes, going through now. Yeah, I think we can kick this one off. We'll add more as we go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Before I forget, just make sure that you tune in this Friday, the 27th at 10 p.m. Australian time, 9 a.m. Eastern, for our next AMA episode. And I believe we will be talking on Web3 marketing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that should be another good one. So definitely mark your calendars on that one. And let's get this thing going. So today we have the privilege of hearing from some of pretty good experts in their field. They're not only a spectator in the Web3 revolution, but it's also its architect behind it. So today's episode should be pretty good. Thanks to everyone joining our panel discussion today. We are excited to have you guys on our episode of X Talks. Our format is pretty simple. Panelists, you don't need to raise your hands to speak. Just feel free to jump in at any point in the discussion. Likewise, just please be mindful to the others that are joining or that are wanting to join the conversation, I should say. Let's start off by having everybody introduce themselves, and I'll give you 30 seconds to do your elevator pitch.
I guess I will just jump right in then. I am Daniel Keller. I am the co-founder of Flux. I am I've been in this space for longer than I care to admit, many cycles. So Flux is the world's largest and first truly decentralized compute network. We have 13,000 nodes, enterprise-based nodes all over the world, pretty much every country you can think of. We currently, if you want to deploy front ends, back ends, game servers, we just recently released WordPress. We have an AI component where you can actually rent out GPUs on our network with our new product, Flux Edge and Flux Core. We were Web3 before Web3 was cool. We were actually built 6 years ago with the vision to create a new infrastructure for Web3. At that point in time, Web3 wasn't coined, but we knew that there needed to be a new version of the internet, and that's why Flux was built. So been around for quite a while, and look forward to participating in this space today.
Happy to jump in. So we're Burn It DAO. We just launched in October. We're a fully on-chain Squid game where you mint NFTs and then compete in a elimination game where you're burning and surviving through rounds to win a large cash prize. We have 2 live contracts right now. You can find at burnitdao.xyz, one where you can win 3 million and one where you can win 180K, I think maybe even 190K this morning. It's all denominated in ETH, and we have a very novel in-game trading mechanic where during the game you can sell your game pieces. You can mint as many as you want. You can play with one wallet or all of your friends. Yeah, and we're really excited. We're going to be at ETH Denver in maybe about a week, I guess, as a featured game at the invitation of the co-founders of ETH Denver. So we're excited about that.
Hey guys, I'm Lena. I'm the founder of Zeitgeist Labs. We're a boutique consultancy based out of New York that focuses on marketing services and whatnot. I actually know Callum, the founder of Co-Host, very well. We've been on a variety of spaces and worked together on a few projects here and there. And I'm also building the Solana NYC community on a stealth project at the moment. So we will be hosting an ETH Denver event March 1st, next Friday. So if any of you will be around, shoot me a message and we'll happy to shoot you the RSP.
Hey, my name is Dylan Dudney. I'm from Root Protocol, and we are building a decentralized identity solution using decentralized identifiers and verifiable credential attestations. And yeah, I'll also be at ETH Denver, I believe, if I'm not too busy. And I hope to see some of you guys there.
Okay, let me jump in. I'm Jujuki. I'm the current BD and head of marketing for Ivy Alien. I believe I've been on the X Space Talk before, like maybe behind the PFP. But anyways, I've been in the NFT space for over 3 years. I was on ETH, then migrated into Polygon because like basically who's gonna pay that gas? So so like I was just here. I've been building with founders like almost forever. So I'm just here to like have fun, have conversations, and connect. Thank you very much.
Hey.
Hello. Sorry.
No worries. Shall I go? Hey, this is Dom. I'm co-founder of Bionic DAO. We're a new investment DAO. We're launching in Q2 2024. We're focused on building a core community of experienced Web3 investors. And our focus is on the space where Web3 meets other emerging technologies such as XR, DeSci, AI, and next-gen infrastructure. So great to be here.
Hey, so quickly, I'm Peter, one of the co-founder of Moongate. So we are building a NFT ticketing and membership platform. So far, work with hundreds of events globally. So yeah, pleasure to be here.
All right. I think there's a few stragglers that we haven't heard from yet. Spark, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah. Look, I'll jump in. My name's Machu. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Layer 1X, so I thought I'd jump into the chat as well. But yeah, no, it's great to hear from some of the co-speakers and a vast array of backgrounds and some real experience as well.
Perfect. If you didn't get a chance, now's your last chance to jump in if you want to go ahead. If not, we'll get this thing rolling. So for those that are just tuning in, my name is Cody. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Layer 1X, and I'll be your host for this episode. We are talking with Web3 founders and kind of having a roundtable discussion about all things Web3. So with that said, let's dive in. And we'll kick off with the first question for the panelists. So the first question I have is kind of more of a personal one, I guess you could say. What is your interest that led you to become involved in shaping the future of a decentralized web?
I'll be happy to jump in there. Yeah, so I think the big thing is I think we knew very early on that there was going to be some paramount moment or some deplatforming that was going to motivate people to understand exactly if we're building out these DeFi projects or if we're building out whatever the buzzword is, DeFi, fintech, Web3, whatever it is, it comes down to decentralized infrastructure. If you're building a DeFi product and it's running on AWS or it's running on Microsoft Azure or Google, that isn't Web 2, it's Web 2.5 at best, or Web 3, that's Web 2.5 at best. So our goal was to set out to make sure that the people were actually able to provide the compute resources that to the people that needed the compute resources, and that's how Flux was born. So we know this with Bitcoin, it is decentralized, although some would argue the hash rate could be a tad decentralized. Flux is a fork of Bitcoin or GPU mineable coins. So that means we put a huge focus on decentralization and make sure that GPUs are the easiest way to do that. We are ASIC resistant. And we have basically our layer 2 that provides with all the infrastructure on top of that. Everything is enterprise grade and benchmarked. And really, honestly, the reason we did this is exactly what we're seeing today. And that is a lot of these folks are building amazing projects. And you just heard from a couple of those amazing projects on here. However, the big issue is if we continue to launch these on centralized infrastructure, the end game is the same. Enterprise infrastructure will continue to rule the roost. They can deplatform you, they can censor you, so on and so forth. Flux is immutable. It's completely decentralized. You cannot censor the platform because it's not in one particular area. It's global, which I think is huge. So as we continue to build out the next iteration of whatever Web 3 is, right, get away from the Web 2.5s, Flux will be the one running the infrastructure underneath of it. And I think that's unbelievably important.
I just want to say that I agree with the importance of decentralization. And I also agree with the comment and about sort of Web 2.5. I apologize, I'm a little slow. It's very early for me. I'm trying to wake up as quickly as I can, but I'll just say this. So like when we set out to build Burn DAO, which was the culmination of about 6 months of active contract development, probably about a year of planning before that, and around 3 months of gas optimization to make sure that it ran on Ethereum. I mean, this is kind of the boring part to most people, but the exciting part to me. The idea was that we very specifically set out we put out a set of requirements for ourselves, and we wanted to make sure that the game that we were building ultimately was completely self-contained. And what I mean by that is, to Flux's point, especially in games right now, when you talk to game developers and you'll say, well, what are you building? They'll say, well, I'm building a Web 3 game. And then they'll say, well, I'm building a Web 2.5 game. Or, they'll say it's on chain, but then it's really not on chain, or many aspects are off chain. In most cases, you're looking at a game engine where you are integrating parts of a blockchain into it, as opposed to really making any kind of truly Web3 game. And the problem that we see with that is kind of twofold. But one is that I feel like it's really important that the industry makes native Web3 products, right? Like we need to be making products and building things that cannot exist in Web 2. If we don't do that, then all we're going to be creating are Web 2 products with extra steps. And I personally don't think that that's really going to lead to this sort of holy grail of mass adoption that everyone keeps talking about. I think you do need some products that are native. I think you need products that require blockchain technology that cannot be built outside of blockchain technology, and have blockchain technology kind of sitting at their core. I think that, for us, that means building a game that can't be rigged, that it can't be manipulated, that it can't be cheated. And for me personally, this kind of goes back to really the white paper, right? If you read the white paper, which many people say they have, but I don't think most people actually have, in the first page, right? Like, look at the number of times that the word trust is mentioned. This is like a core tenet going back to kind of the earliest days of crypto. And the idea was, in particular, that you could have a transaction with someone who you don't trust, right? Who's actively trying to cheat you, who's telling you they're trying to cheat you. But because of the nature of blockchain security, they are sort of forced into a fair transaction with you, right? And a transparent transaction with you. And I think that ethos, kind of carrying it forward, especially those words that we heard early in crypto, right? Words like permissionless, words like decentralized, words like trustless, right? Those words are really important, and we have to have products that embody those. So, like I said, when we started building, we were thinking about that, and we set out this goal to say, can we build a game that's truly decentralized? Not partially, not mostly, but like 100% decentralized. Can we build a game that's truly permissionless, truly trustless? Can it be autonomous? Can it be anonymous? And can it be perpetual? And we're happy to say that it is possible. Like, we are, proof that at least on the gaming side, you can build such a game. I will say, just for context for those listening, it does mean that you have to open your mind about how products work, how models work. Like in our case, you have to realize that not all games, equal video games, right? Like, we're a game show. We work differently, we look differently than something like GTA. But what we were able to do is make a game where the game engine is the blockchain. There's no separation between those two things. And when you put blockchain kind of at the core of your product, it means that, among other things, you're going to inherit all of the decentralization directly. You're going to inherit the security model directly, right? And I think that's a big part of the future, right? I think it's really, really important and critical that these kinds of products exist. I don't think all the products have to be Web3, right? Like, I'm not saying that. I think that there is room in the world for Web2, but we have to recognize that when you build a Web 2.5 product, you're going to, through necessity, water down or compromise, in many respects, the best parts of the blockchain. You're going to introduce centralization. You're going to introduce things. So, for us, it was very difficult, but we ultimately ended up with a single smart contract. We have no oracles. In fact, we have no proxies. There's no delegate calls. There's really nothing. It's a game where you can play the game directly from contract, which is pretty unique. And I think, again, thinking about products like that, where you have, full transparency and full kind of autonomy around it, it's just super, super important for the space going forward.
That makes total sense. Thanks for sharing that. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that question?
I first came across Web3 like as a term. I think it might have been in 2014 or 2015, but it was from Gavin Wood, who literally coined the term. And I was really interested in this idea because it flowed out of, I think it flowed out pretty naturally from my interest in kind of like the financial use case of a public intranet that is, I guess, I guess is tantamount to a blockchain, right? With Bitcoin, and then later with Ethereum, which is that we can kind of disintermediate all these relationships that were more or less kind of like mediated or centralized, and there was rent-seeking behavior throughout. That was true certainly. It's true certainly within the financial use cases or the financial kind of picture, but it's also true, I think, when it comes to how the internet works, right? And so I started to think more deeply about how would this basic question of like, what does the internet look like if indeed we have sovereignty to our data and to our identity, and what do business relationships look like? Are they better? Are they worse? What does the consumer experience look like? Is it better? Is it worse? Ultimately, I came down to a sense of deep conviction that it would be way better Uh, but as some of the other speakers have discussed already, there are some challenges that we have and have had since the coining of that term and getting to a point. And shit, I mean, that's all the way, like he coined the term 2014, so it's 10 years later. And there have been challenges in getting to I think a technical level for the infrastructure, just what we can use to build Web3 experiences. It's taken some time, right, from concept to be able to do some deploying. And I think we're finally there, mainly because of, well, obviously because of all the prior stuff, but mainly because scaling solutions are in place. And I think that that's just a really big factor. But yeah, so that's my piece on it.
Yeah, thanks for thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. Bionic, you have your hand up.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear everything everyone's saying, and couldn't agree more. We're for obvious reasons, full believers in decentralization and the ethos of Web3, both sort of cultural and technology based. But I think we come at things with a level of pragmatism in that. In the near term, at least, there's value in decentralized systems and centralized systems, cooperating and being able to be interoperable. There's, I think, from a sort of purely revenue commercial perspective, it's going to be it's really hard to sort of go out there and say everything has to be decentralized. It's the only way to do things, because the net impact of that, I think, in the near term is going to be that we fail to scale Web3 platforms and systems, because as I say, in the short term, all of the economics or a lot of the economics are behind centralized platforms. I guess if you take Uber as an example, it'd be incredibly difficult for a Web3 completely decentralized ride-sharing service to outcompete a system like that in the short term. So I think it's focusing on interoperability and having a level of pragmatism about it until we manage to. If we don't do that, I guess my concern is that we put blockers in the way of achieving true scale with Web3, because at the end of the day, users kind of vote with their feet. They're going to onboard themselves into services that offer them the maximum level of value. And if we don't have that balance and pragmatism and open-mindedness, for the next couple of years, I guess, so we kind of hold ourselves back as a space.
No, I love that. From a layer 1x perspective, our core mechanic that we have, which is our flagship technology, is our interoperability, which is bridgeless. It's native, and not only can you move assets, but you can also move data and logic. And for us, it's I like what you were saying about the whole interoperability part of it, as well as the collaboration and the open-mindedness. I think that that's a big part of growing any project, is being willing to, once you do have a solution to a problem that you are trying to solve, to basically be open-minded to collaborate with other projects to help expand into other things. And that's one thing that Layer 1x is definitely trying to focus on, is we're not here to compete with other chains. We're here to unite all of crypto together, providing a seamless experience for all of the users within Web3. So yes, thank you for sharing. Juju, you have your hand up as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. I guess I'm just used to spaces where I need to raise my hand. Well, it is what it is. So basically, the way I found my way into blockchain and every other thing is, I guess it started when I was basically into crypto, Bitcoin, Ethereum before COVID. I was maybe a bad trader, bad hodler, or whatever. I just basically just take out the small gains and just get out of there. Then after COVID, because basically I was into engineering and everything, and like workplace kind of closed down. I was like, okay, fine. What do I do? I was just like all over the internet, reading whatever I could read, see whatever I could see. Then I started seeing things about NFTs, about blockchain. I started reading through them. I was like, okay, this is something. Let me just check this out. I got in, found a few communities. I started understanding like maybe the idea behind community. Then slowly evolved into like understanding crypto a little bit better and realized the utilities behind each token and knew what could be built on like each blockchain, the differences between them. Then with the way the current situation with the NFTs are right now as well, like it evolved into a point where you could basically like build anything. We've seen like DeFi protocols, we've seen like gaming projects, we've seen like totally gamble-fies, whatever, just built behind on the blockchain behind like NFT projects. So that was like basically an entry point for me to like see and experience firsthand working with this project. Like currently as well, I work with a gaming project and I could see like a lot of work that's been done behind the scenes, building our game, building out like the community, especially like assigned for gamers and things like that. So it's just like great when we see all these things that could be done with a blockchain and what the future holds. And it's a lovely journey to be like a part of. Thank you very much, Juju. Out.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for everybody that's commented on that. We're basically at the 30-minute mark, so let's just pause for a second. For those that are just joining us, my name is Cody. I'm the Chief Experience Officer at Layer 1X and today's host. We're joined by quite a few industry experts and architects behind the Web3 revolution. It has been a great conversation and discussion so far, so thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, go ahead and please do us a favor and share the link to this so that we can get this great discussion out to a bigger audience. We'd appreciate that. Likewise, if you guys have any questions that are listeners listening in and have a question for our panelists, please drop those in the comments and we'll have Sam pick those up and present those a little bit later. Let's move on to the next discussion or the next topic. So going along, interoperability has kind of popped up a couple of times. So let's talk about that for just a second. So the question I want to ask is, for you in your Web3 sector, how do you think interoperability will unlock entirely new use cases or even potential benefits in 2024 or upcoming years?
Well, I would say that, I mean, interchain operability is the holy grail of blockchain, right? So having these siloed-based projects that really are doing unique things, and then of course there are projects that are doing the same thing. It's a lot of wasted resources, I think. So allowing chains to work together. For instance, Flux has 10 other chains. So we have Flux ETH, Flux Solana, Flux KDA, Flux Ergo, Fluxtron, so on and so forth. And we bridge onto all of those ecosystems. And why is that important? Well, that's super important, is if we're going to grow this into one symbiotic kind of new paradigm, we're going to need to be able to communicate between chains. So I think any project that's out there working individually in a silo is doing it wrong. I often say, the gentleman earlier mentioned about competition. I agree wholeheartedly. People ask me, what's your competition? I say, we don't have competition. We have opportunities. Because opportunities for us to get Web3 to where it needs to go, we all need to be working together. Flux cannot do it individually, and nor would we want to do that. But we are a piece in the cog that will become Web3. So I suggest anybody that's out there working with other projects is to sit down and start to really learn about those projects. Find the ones that fit in well with you and carry the same ethos, and work on developing together. I think it's time for the tribalistic, my bag is the best bag, to start going away, and for people to really step up and start getting involved in this stuff.
I actually think that interchain operability is a LARP. I'm not gonna lie. I think that it's a dead end. Like the reality is, I think that it makes sense for moving from like layer 2 to layer 1 when you have like a high value asset that you need to secure. But like, to be honest, I think from an architectural point of view, there's not like a ton of use cases around it that make any real
Well,
sense. So like, for example, like if you were building a game like World of Warcraft, right? The reality is that the business model of that game is kind of not just the business model, but the technology model of some kind of game like that, as an example, right? So, you know, if you're building that game, you're going to select a chain, which for you is basically a database that's going to be performant enough and give you kind of the use cases that you want for your users, right? But like, you don't really give a fuck about people going to other chains. You don't give a fuck about those assets going to any properties that are outside of the properties that you control, right? That are within your ecosystem. In fact, you're really disincented, frankly, to allow the transfer of assets outside of those things. Now, I mean, you could benefit from migrating liquidity, I guess, but then that kind of goes back to which chain you're selecting in the first place. So,
I
I mean, it may be the case, but you know, I feel like there's a lot of talk about it, but I haven't really seen anyone make compelling arguments for why we should do it, other than it kind of being a little bit of a solution in search of a problem.
I think I will respectfully disagree with that. And I think interchain operability ultimately is what takes us to the next level. You're thinking of it strictly from a financial standpoint and an end user standpoint, which is the way Web3 should be developed. We need to understand that for people to utilize it, mass adoption, it needs to be essentially seamless, and they don't give a shit. They will pick their asset. They will continue to do, you used to, for instance, of World of Warcraft. If World of Warcraft runs on Flux and that's a decentralized platform, it continues to scale and build appropriately. So I think what you need to do is look past just the silo of the financial world or the finance world.
I'm not talking about the financial world. What I'm saying is that like if you install World of Warcraft, and let's say in a hypothetical, World of Warcraft goes fully, or not fully, but they adopt a bunch of blockchain technology, right? And they're going to go to market with, I don't know, Polygon or Immutable X or
I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. I think they have to build the infrastructure to scale appropriately. And to scale appropriately, you are basically baking in and saying this is the only technology that we're ever going to have. These other chains are going to develop technology that's not even existent yet. I mean, let's take a step back and look at what fintech was 2 years ago. It's nothing like it is today. And as a matter of fact, the technology that's developed on that has done so exponentially. So for us to isolate an area and say, okay, it's a red herring or it's something we're not going to chase, I think that is naive at best and legacy at best. Sorry, that's the way I feel about it.
I don't know what your background is, but I can say that like my background is that like I've actually built and deployed these products, right? I don't know what you mean when you say you're not going to target a specific platform as part of your go-to-market. Like that's critical to understanding how you're going to market. Like you have to say, these are our needs, right? This is what we need to support our use case. You identify technologies to support that use case, and then you go to market with those technologies, right? So
you go to market, then you iterate. I mean, and by the way, 25 plus years in technology, and I helped build the world's largest decentralized compute network. So I just think, and I'm not, and this is good conversation, good banter. That's all it is. But I think it's very short-sighted to say the technology stands as it stands today. I mean, customers don't know what you want till you show them. Essentially, it's the Steve Jobs scenario. If we stopped at iPhone 1, we'd never have what we have now as we developed out the technology. You're looking at it from a user base, which is good. Which is the way well, yes, you are. No, I mean, you're specifically saying, okay, well, we'll agree to disagree on this one and let somebody else pipe in.
Hey,
I think.
Yeah, let's kind of move on. I love the discussion. I'm definitely going to be inviting you guys back for another AMA where we totally dive into kind of what you guys are talking about. But let's just kind of pause there and move on. Lena, I believe that you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt the banter. I mean, y'all had a moment. I mean, from the perspective of the end user and just consumers on the marketing side of things, I would say that no one cares at the end of the day about what blockchain they are using to proceed with anything. They care about how easy it is to onboard. Is it a single sign-on operation? Is it a wallet connect that has no more than 3 clicks and so forth? And from the perspective of just creating a seamless experience, we're a ways away from that. If we haven't hit that benchmark by 2025, I think we have to realistically as an industry say, what the hell are we doing? I mean, we've been around for a decade now. Now AI has taken over the world and people are looking at crypto still with side eyes. And even though it's still a bull market, or it's a bull market has begun, we still have a long ways to go. So from the perspective of interoperability, again, I'm not technical, so I can't speak on this. There's a ways to go.
Hey, Spark, you had
Okay.
your hand up as well. I'll get to you, Juju, in just a second.
Yeah. Look, I think you've got to make some assumptions when it comes to interoperability. One of the assumptions are: do you believe that the future of blockchain is multiple blockchains existing, whether they be public, private, proof of authority or proof of stake, proof of work? And I believe that is the case, that the future of blockchains will be multiple blockchains existing. And because depending on the entity, like let's say it's government, they would want to have their own blockchain, and then there'll be public blockchains, and then each government having their own blockchain. And then I suppose the question, if that's the belief, then the question is, will those blockchains need to talk to each other? And I think the simple answer is yes. I think what Flux was saying about the wasted resources currently that are siloed on these chains, the double spend, that's happening with people building, forking, all these sort of things. And I think there'll be multiple reasons why other blockchains will want to talk to each other, just like any country wants to do international trade, is because it's an exchange of resources. So if I have a blockchain and I want some of the resources, then they could be as simple as users and liquidity, or it could be other resources. Then I'm going to need to connect to that chain to access those resources. So I believe in a multi-chain, or there'll be multiple chains existing, and I do believe that they will need to talk to each other.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Okay, Juju, you're up.
Okay, so I was gonna say, like, I'm gonna give a quick example, maybe from a gaming standpoint, and relate it into like simplifying the process and the community side as well. So firstly, like when you're looking at the gaming sector, I feel like Web3 gaming side of things don't have like as much players or users as like Web2 right now. So the best way like you could simply onboard people is through interoperability, because that way you are giving people access to not just one blockchain but multiple blockchains at the same time. And also when you're trying to like build out games, maybe you're trying to like pick out a community from maybe the each side or whatever side you feel like you're building your community from, where you see like, okay, yeah, these are the people that sees my goals, that understands what I'm trying to build. But you need like maybe the cheaper gas fees of Polygon, or like maybe someone from Solana, or some from Immutable X or something. So you find a way to like build on those blockchains and make them work together, because it's gonna like further push your goals. And it's all about like making it simple, because I've seen like people on the east side, when you're trying to bring them over to like maybe Polygon, as easy as it might sound, since it's a layer 2, you see some of them be like, how do I do this? Like, it's a real difficult process. Now, why should I do this? And at the end of everything, you just end up like walking away. So when that like certain project exists on, let's say like ETH exists on Polygon, it makes it easier for them to like easily join into the community, or like join the project without like feeling like they had to like go out of their way or whatever means they have to like switch over into another blockchain. So it's really about like making the whole process like simple and like seamless to people. The main problem right now is how simple are this process right now. And I feel like interoperability is a step forward towards the direction of like making everything simpler into onboarding like Web2 people into Web3. So at the end of at the end of everything, we could finally just call Web3 game and Web2 game just games, and not having to like differentiate every single time. Thank you very much.
Bionic, you're up.
Hey, yeah, I mean, I think the talk, talking about interoperability and so on is, it's clearly of immense value, and there's great strides being made. I think we've also got to recognise that we are still early here. We're building out, some of the kind of key strata that are going to be required. In one of the last spaces I was on, it was someone here whose name I've forgotten. Apologies. But, we talked about all the strata that was left over from the dot-com boom. It was a really insightful comment, and that it was that enabled the next wave of products to be built in Web 2 and Web 2.5, I guess, to an extent. But I think to focus on interoperability, sort of looking from the inside out, obviously, it feels really, really important. But we've also got to look from the outside in, and the fact is that consumers. We all want this to be mass market. We're all huge believers in Web3. We want it to dominate and be the dominant paradigm, I guess I'm saying. But consumers do vote with their feet, and they are going to. Our core job is to create value without sort of worrying about or fighting about what should be interoperable and what shouldn't be. Our focus should be on creating value for those end users, and it's only by creating that value that we're going to create. We're going to create a situation where we really truly begin to onboard at a sort of mass market level the numbers that we all really want there. I think one of the things we've been thinking about a lot recently, without much to steer the conversation away, is I think one of the things
for the user because they're not having, swapping any token with any token and using any token as gas. Getting to that level, I think, or having no gas, it just becomes part of your value that you're trying to send cross chain. I think that is just a very simple use case, but hugely powerful in the user experience, and it's one of many that interoperability could deliver.
Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things we've been thinking about a lot is where AI is going to fit into this, and I think one of the things people don't talk about enough that's very likely to happen over the next 12, 18 months is that the control over the user interface starts to kind of melt away. And one of the real powers of Web3 is the modularity and composability. And if you've got an AI agent that can create a user interface or a custom application on the fly, not having interoperability in that kind of scenario is a huge blocker to value creation for those end users.
I totally agree with you. Coming from a UI, UX design background,
is it me, or are we all having a minute of silence?
It's you, Spark. For me, it comes down to user experience, being able to have a positive, seamless. I think it was Luna that was talking about, Lena that was talking about, having 2 or 3 clicks max to get people in and allow them to have that user experience where it's clean and simple. I think that's where interoperability shines, because it gives us the opportunity to not be so siloed, allows us to be able to create those awesome user experiences for people across the board, no matter if it's interacting with a contract that's on BNB or BSC and having it interact with something on Ethereum or Solana or something like that, and being able to transfer not only assets but logic and data is going to be paramount to the future. I think Flex was the one that was talking about that, and I wholeheartedly agree with it. So, Kevin, I believe you were trying to pipe in there at one moment.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for me being able to join. That was a cancellation, so I was invited. My name is Kevin Yuna, of course. I work with DeFiMints.com. We are a real-world asset tokenization ecosystem and tokenizing real-world assets. And I want to agree with Bionic on the AI angle and say that I do believe that a lot of AI tools will be created in the future, so you don't even have to think about integration. It will just be on the fly online as you browse the net. You will be connected automatically by AI to the different chains, and I think it would not be an issue in the near future. You can jump from chain to chain online automatically via AI, I think. So I totally agree on that angle.
I don't know that. Is there anybody on this that believes that the building out of the infrastructure creates a better experience? I mean, for instance, my wife, when she goes to the ATM machine, she puts her card in, she puts her number in, she pulls her cash out, she drives away. The user experience is seamless, and that's what we want for Web3 overall. We want that almost holistic, seamless experience. However, the infrastructure behind that is massive, and I think that's our job, is to be building that infrastructure out to enable the folks to build those seamless pieces. Another, for instance, is as we were working on Flux, one of the things that popped up was two-factor authentication. Simple enough, right? Two-factor authentication is a necessity for any technology piece, but who controls that two-factor authentication? Well, it's controlled by Google or whoever you are using for that. So we had to build a decentralized two-factor authentication. These are the pieces that we have to lay down to enable Web3 to really grow into that seamless solution. So those interchain operability pieces, the behind the scenes, the unglorious shit, the hard work that we're doing, I think that's where we need to be focused. And the lady that mentioned it's been 10 years and here we are, I think amazingly enough, because we've been siloed working on the financial world, which, by the way, finance is a problem that's not looking for an answer. Let's look greater than that. We're looking at GameFi. We're looking at electronic medical records, supply chain management, pieces like that. All industries that are desiring to have those things built out. So I think it comes down to really what Web3 is we need to concentrate on building something unique and something different and something that's scalable and actually works. And I think there's a lot of projects out there that they're very siloed in on their particular solution and they're missing the forest through the trees. So I think that I just wanted to throw that out. I think it's unbelievably important to build out interchain operability.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. I've been in for 2 decades, been in the SaaS model, software development background, and being in crypto just blew my mind how siloed a lot of these projects were and how focused they were, subconsciously bringing over Web 2 kind of mentality over into a Web 3 space. It works for only so long before it just doesn't work anymore. And they need to have that open mind that we were talking about earlier in the conversation. It's only then when you have that open mind of where to take it and make it more of the Web3 experience, where it's more about the user experience and bringing the projects and the DeFi projects and protocols to the user rather than the user going to these various things, making that seamless kind of new internet experience that people are wanting, where they control their data, where they have the ability to take their World of Warcraft minted items to another kind of RPG game, and integrate those in. That is definitely going to be the future. The thing I kind of think about is this the movie Ready Player One, right? Where you can take pretty much any of your assets, your skins, and take them and use them in any world that you want. That's where I feel like we need to be headed. So,
Amen. I couldn't agree more with that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So let's pause real quick. Sam, do we have any questions from the community on this one? If not,
nope. I don't see any.
Okay. So last chance for listeners. If you want to throw out a question out there for our panelists, be sure to throw it in the comments, and we'll get that one up. I'll ask one other question before our last one. In this space where anonymity is valued, what are your thoughts on the importance of doxing yourself and your teams for building trust and transparency within your community?
Oh my, that's a loaded question. But I think it is essential that if you are co-founders in a project, I'm a huge cypherpunk, so I love privacy. It's the whole reason why I came to blockchain. And I ended up, when we created Flux, realizing that I was going to have to dox myself if I wanted to. Essentially, there is only one Satoshi Nakamoto. He did us a great gift. He did us two great gifts. He created Bitcoin, and the second gift was he went away. And that was a pretty amazing gift. But that doesn't work if you're working into the standard tech stacks of what we're doing today. And I think for us to be good stewards of our projects and continue to gain the trust in not only our communities, but our enterprises that we're reaching out to, I think it's absolutely essential to dox yourselves. As we continue to mature as a space, and let me tell you something, from 6 years ago till today, it's a different world. From 14 years ago till today, it's a different world. So I think we got to continue to keep maturing. I think there is a place, we make sure, especially with interacting with the product, it's completely pseudo-anonymous structure and so on and so forth. So being able to assist people with their privacy and security is essential, but they have to trust the person that's on the other side of that. I believe that. Like I said, there is only one Bitcoin, but I think if you really want to be serious about building your product out, I think you do need to be doxed. At least that's my opinion.
I guess I can just share my own experiences. I feel like doxing yourself is fine. I mean, many teams do that. Many teams do not. They prefer to go anonymous. Sharing my own experience, having been behind different projects or been part of go-to-markets of different projects. Like my own experience as a founder in this space, there's a difference between being a doxed founder that has a public token that's traded on the open market, and having and doing like an equity raise or something like that. There's a huge difference, and the difference is like literally crazy people on the internet who send you death threats because they talk or they bought your token on the open market and sold their farm to do it, and they blame you for their losses, right? So everyone kind of externalizes their losses and internalizes their gains, and I think that's something that Web3 founders and crypto founders in particular, especially ones who have public tokens that are traded openly, have a much more difficult time, I think. And then it's like salt in the wound, because you have anonymous teams that are pumping like Pepe Hyper shitcoin X, and you'll have the same people who are calling you a scammer, even though you're an open doxed founder, are investing in these anon teams with meme coins. And that's, I think, really personally challenging aspect of being specific to founders in this space, right? Because if you're just I've been in traditional startup situations too that are not crypto oriented and totally different. Nobody knows who you are. You have investors that have 5 to 10 year time frames. The investors in crypto are fucking on, sorry, excuse my French. They're like startup investors on steroids. They're looking at 6 months to 2 year turnaround on their exits. And then you're also attached to your public token. Yeah, I had to seek therapy, to be completely honest, having weathered the storm already once of having been a Web3 founder with a public token. So yeah, that would be my 2 cents.
Thanks for sharing that.
So
go ahead, Lena.
Jumping in here as someone who's worked with 30 plus brands now on the marketing side of things, I would say that, there's pros and cons, obviously, to being doxed and not doxed. I mean, living in the United States, there's a lot of repercussions and regulation that's cracking down and so forth. But I'm fully doxxed simply because I feel that I have nothing to hide. But some people may feel that they don't want to dox for their safety, security, privacy protection, which I absolutely value and also understand as well. But in my experience in working with brands who haven't doxed, I have felt that particularly, and this may come off as problematic, like there's been issues in the future, and let's just say, founders just haven't stuck to their word, and I think that there's guarantee and promise to fully representing yourself and putting your best foot forward in releasing your public identity, simply because it follows you wherever you go. But at the same time, there's downsides to that too. Like, for example, because I'm doxxed, I've had countless fake Instagrams pretend that they're me. I've had countless people try to rug my email through phishing attacks and even more identity theft stuff. So it's not fun. But yeah, there's pros and cons. And I would just say, if you're considering launching a product, definitely consider the open side of it, because again, unfortunately, the public sentiment of the space is that it's scammy, and we have to build trust on the front end.
I just want to quickly chime in here. I think it also depends, whether you're doxxed or not. Also depends, I guess, on your project target audience. Like, for instance, I guess for us, obviously, working a lot with the traditional like brands or companies also on like bringing their, I guess, memberships or ticketing on chain. It's basically impossible for me to not kind of dox myself, given, all these are obviously kind of built on trust, with all these kind of traditional relationships. But I think at the same time, for similar to a lot of the other type of projects, maybe more on the real world assets or whatnot, or even more projects that are trying to, I guess, drive the mass adoption or kind of on the user layer to really build trust with a lot of the users. I think probably, this that kind of doxing probably is kind of required per se, in order to kind of build the trust in the long run. But I think, so yeah, I mean, I would say even for more, I guess, projects that are more leaning towards to the mass adoptions, at least on the user level, based on my own experience, pretty much is quite impossible to kind of drive the trust level if it is not doxed and, in any point of time.
Nah, 100%. I've worked with quite a few different major brands and working exclusively with the executive teams regarding, social media kind of things like that. And it is, in my opinion, the same as if you were doxing yourself through your main account, through social, like your Twitter account, Instagram account, things like that. There is a level of trust that definitely comes with that when you have a real face connected to it versus kind of a cartoon or a symbol around it. So I think that is it. Sam, did we end up getting any questions from the listeners?
Nope. It seems like our speakers were quite clear with their statements, so we don't have any questions.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to them directly afterwards. But I do have one last question, and we'll kind of end on that note once we ask that. But here's the last question. For aspiring founders that are eager to enter into the Web3 space, what is your best advice on getting started? For example, what type of resources, solutions, strategies, tips would you recommend for navigating the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for them?
The best input I could give is this. Sit down, look at your project, figure out what problem you're actually solving, and then look at what other projects are actually doing it in the space or doing something similar. I think too often we're so quickly to run in because we had a good idea, and there is, we want to build this idea out, but if it's already being recreated, maybe you can do something a little bit different. So I think tons of research if we're going to invest in a cryptocurrency or a stock for that matter, you're going to do some research on it. So before you write that white paper, before you build that team, sit down and actually figure out the problem you're going to fix and how you're going to work with other projects as well to make that happen. You cannot go it alone in this space. I repeat, you will not be successful going at it by yourself. So make sure you're inclusive, make sure your community is very educated, and build this thing from the ground up. Good foundation is everything.
Man, Flux actually noted on that one. What I was going to say again, in addition to what Flux said, is sit down, check if you're totally going to be fully available for the project. Because at the end of everything, it's time consuming. It's a lot of work. It's stressful. That's why you can't do it alone. But at the same time, the presence of the founder is always needed. So you can't just assume that, oh, you have a team, they represent you, whatever. You have to take out time, show up and show out, and get a mentor, have someone who will show you the ropes, people you could easily follow their map out plan, things like that. But just know one thing, it's not easy. Just be prepared to work it out yourself. Not discouraging anyone or anything, but just be prepared. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else want to jump in? All right. If not, we'll, I guess that wraps up our deep dive discussion for today. We hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Before we end this episode, let's give a big thank you to all of our panelists for their participation. Also, if you found today's episode insightful, please give us a like and follow the XTalks handle for all of our upcoming AMAs. We'd appreciate the love and support. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of innovation and unite all of crypto. Have a good day, and thanks for joining.
Big thanks, everyone. See you in the next episode
Thank
of
you,
the.
everyone.
Bye-bye.